Dr. Sarah Chen stared through the observation window of Deep Space Research Station Athena, her breath fogging the reinforced glass as she tracked the anomaly approaching their sector. The facility's quantum sensors had detected the object 3 hours ago, and its behavior defied every known pattern of natural phenomena. "There's no way that's a comet," she muttered, adjusting the holographic overlay. The object's trajectory showed deliberate course corrections, subtle but unmistakable. After 15 years of studying deep space phenomena, Sarah knew the difference between random gravitational influences and intentional navigation. "Dr. Chen, we're picking up energy signatures," called Lieutenant James Rodriguez from his monitoring station. "They're crystalline in nature. That can't be right." Sarah rushed to his console, her heart racing. The readings were unlike anything in their database. A complex lattice of energy patterns radiating through what appeared to be a crystalline superstructure. But what caught her attention wasn't the composition. It was the degradation pattern. "Those are weapon impacts," she breathed, pointing to the spreading fracture patterns across the object's surface. "Something's been shooting at it." Before Rodriguez could respond, the station's emergency protocols activated. Red warning lights bathed the observation deck in crimson as Chief of Security Diana Walsh's voice came over the comms. "Unknown vessel approaching rapid deceleration. All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." The object, now clearly a ship, dropped out of faster-than-light travel less than 10,000 kilometers from the station. Its surface was a maze of translucent crystal formations, some glowing with internal energy, others dark and fractured. The vessel was massive, nearly twice the size of their research station. "Multiple life signs detected," Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with tension. "But they're not reading as organic. More like organized energy patterns within the crystal structure." Sarah's scientific mind raced with possibilities. Crystalline-based life forms. The implications were staggering, but the ship's obvious damage suggested more immediate concerns. A transmission cut through their communications channels, not in radio waves or standard electromagnetic signals, but in pure energy patterns that the station's systems somehow translated into sound. "Sanctuary, please." The voice was neither male nor female, but carried unmistakable desperation. "They follow. The harvesters follow." "This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth's Deep Space Research Station Athena." Sarah responded, ignoring Diana's warning glare. "Your vessel appears damaged. How can we assist?" The response came in pulses of light that rippled through the crystal ship's structure. "No time. They consume. They take all. Must hide." The transmission became erratic, matching the increasingly unstable energy readings from the vessel's core. "That ship's about to experience a catastrophic failure," Rodriguez warned, his fingers flying over his console. "Core destabilization in less than 10 minutes." Sarah made a decision that would change human history. "Diana, prep emergency docking protocols. Lieutenant, get me a channel to Earth Command. We're about to have refugees." "Dr. Chen." Diana stepped forward, hand on her sidearm. "Regulations state. Regulations don't account for crystalline aliens about to die on our doorstep." Sarah snapped. "Look at their weapon damage. Something out there was trying to destroy them. Something that might be following them. Do we really want to meet that threat without understanding what we're dealing with first?" The crystal ship's surface pulsed with weakening light patterns as Diana hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Security teams to emergency docking bay 3. Full containment protocols." As the station's docking arms extended toward the alien vessel, Sarah watched the darkness of deep space behind it. Whatever had attacked these beings, whatever these harvesters were, humanity's comfortable isolation was about to end. The question was, were they ready for what came next? The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The crystalline beings, who called themselves Meridians, were successfully evacuated to a contained section of the station. Their forms were fascinating. humanoid-shaped crystalline matrices housing complex energy patterns that served as their consciousness. Communication was established through a combination of light patterns and energy pulses that the station's quantum computers gradually learned to interpret. Their story was terrifying. The harvesters, they explained, were once organic beings who had transformed themselves into something mechanical and relentless. They traveled the galaxy, not to conquer or destroy, but to harvest, to forcibly extract and absorb the technological and scientific achievements of other civilizations, leaving broken worlds and shattered species in their wake. As Sarah listened to their account, watching the light patterns pulse through their crystalline forms with remembered terror, she realized that humanity's first contact wouldn't be a moment of peaceful exchange or diplomatic overtures. Instead, it would be a baptism by fire, as Earth faced a threat that had already consumed countless civilizations. The Meridians had escaped with their core scientific knowledge, their mastery of crystalline technology and energy manipulation. Knowledge the harvesters would be coming to claim. Knowledge that might be humanity's only hope of survival. As the station's quantum communications array transmitted their situation to Earth Command, Sarah watched the stars through the observation window, knowing that somewhere out there, the hunters were following their prey's trail. Humanity's age of isolation was over, and their trial by fire was about to begin. General Maya Santos stood before the holographic display in Earth Defense Command's primary research facility, watching as teams of scientists studied the crystalline technology gifted by the Meridians. 3 months had passed since first contact at Station Athena, and humanity had been transformed by the encounter. The integration tests are showing promise, Dr. Victor Hassan reported, manipulating a 3-dimensional model of their latest prototype. We've successfully merged Meridian crystal matrices with our quantum computing systems. The processing power is, well, it's beyond anything we've ever achieved. Maya nodded, but her attention was fixed on the secondary display, showing the growing number of refugee ships appearing at the edge of the solar system. The Meridians weren't alone anymore. Word had spread through the galaxy's surviving civilizations. Earth was offering sanctuary to those fleeing the harvesters. "How long until the defense grid is operational?" she asked, watching as another cluster of ships appeared on the long-range sensors. These ones were biological in nature, their massive organic hulls bearing the scars of recent combat. "That's complicated," Victor admitted. "The crystal integration works, but each new species brings different technologies, different approaches. The Zentary's biological tech doesn't naturally interface with Meridian crystals, and our attempts to bridge the gap keep." An alarm cut through the facility. Red warning lights flashed as Lieutenant Sarah Chen, recently promoted after her actions on Station Athena, rushed into the command center. "General, we're detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the Kuiper Belt," she reported, her voice tight. "Pattern matches the Meridian records of Harvester scout vessels." Maya's jaw clenched. They weren't ready. The defense grid was only at 30% capacity, and the refugee ships were still scattered across the system. How many? 3 vessels, each approximately 5 kilometers in length. They're not trying to hide their approach. Of course they weren't. The harvesters had never needed to hide before. They simply came, took what they wanted, and left civilizations broken in their wake. But humanity had something none of their previous victims had time to prepare, and the combined knowledge of dozens of refugee species. "Activate the Chimera Protocol," Maya ordered. Around the command center, officers rushed to their stations as screens lit up with activation codes. Victor's eyes widened. "General, the hybrid defense systems haven't been fully tested. If we try to integrate all 3 technologies at once, then we'll deal with the consequences," Maya cut him off. "Better to risk the systems than lose everything. Lieutenant Chen, signal the refugee fleet. Tell them to fall back behind Mars orbit, and get me a direct line to the Meridian Architect and the Zentari hive mind." The next hour was controlled chaos as Earth's first line of defense came online. orbital platforms housing a revolutionary combination of human quantum computers, meridian crystal matrices, and Xinteri biological processors activated around the planet. The technology shouldn't have worked together. The crystalline precision of meridian science was fundamentally opposed to the organic adaptability of Xinteri biology. But humanity's quantum systems acted as a bridge, forcing harmony between the disparate systems through sheer processing power. Harvester vessels entering weapons range, Sarah reported. Their energy signatures are shifting. They're adapting to our defensive formations. Maya watched as the massive black ships approached, their surfaces rippling with absorbed technology from countless civilizations. They were beautiful in their terrible efficiency, monuments to the power of unchecked technological advancement. "They're scanning us," Victor announced, studying the incoming data. "All three vessels are focusing their sensors on our hybrid platforms. They've never seen anything like this before." "Let's show them something else new," Maya said. "Initiate defense pattern Alpha 7. Lieutenant Chen, activate the quantum disruption field." The space around Earth shimmed as dozens of hybrid platforms activated simultaneously. Meridian crystal beams interfaced with Xinteri biological pulses, all guided by human quantum targeting systems. The Harvester's shields, designed to counter any single form of attack, found themselves trying to adapt to three different technologies working in perfect synchronization. The first Harvester vessel's shields flickered as crystal beams created microscopic fractures, while Xinteri energy pulses exploited those gaps to deliver devastating organic compounds that began breaking down their hull at the molecular level. Human quantum weapons followed, their attacks precisely timed to strike through the compromised defenses. "Direct hits confirmed," Sarah called out. First vessel showing signs of severe system degradation. Their adaptive protocols can't keep up with the combined assault. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The Harvesters had spent millennia perfecting their ability to absorb and counter any single species' technology. But they'd never faced multiple species working together, their technologies integrated in ways that should have been impossible. The lead vessel's surface began to crack, its stored energy bleeding out into space in brilliant streams of light. The other two ships immediately changed course, their retreat as unexpected as it was welcome. "They're running," Victor breathed, disbelief evident in his voice. "They've never retreated before, not in any of the Meridian records." "Because they've never lost before," Maya replied, watching the damaged Harvester ship break apart, its fragments scattering across space like a dying star. "Send all battle data to the research teams. They'll be back, and they'll be ready for these tactics next time." She turned to face her crew, seeing the same mix of relief and determination on every face. "We've just proved something that will change everything. The Harvesters can be beaten. Not by any one species' technology, but by all of us working together." As the command center erupted in cheers, Maya's eyes were drawn to the long-range sensors showing more refugee ships approaching. Earth was becoming more than just a sanctuary. It was becoming hope for a galaxy that had forgotten what hope felt like. The war was far from over, but humanity had just changed the rules of engagement. The Harvesters would return, stronger and more adaptable than ever. But they would find that humans, too, knew something about adaptation. And unlike the Harvesters, they wouldn't be fighting alone. Admiral Elena Rossi stood at the helm of the ESS Prometheus, humanity's first true multi-species warship. Its hull was a masterpiece of integration. Quantum-enhanced alloys merged with living Xinteri tissue and reinforced by meridian crystal lattices. But it wasn't the ship's construction that held her attention now. It was the tactical display showing hundreds of Harvester vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel. "They've adapted," her second-in-command, Commander David Chen, noted grimly. "Energy signatures show they've modified their hulls to resist our hybrid attacks." 6 months had passed since Earth's first victory against the Harvester Scouts. 6 months of feverish preparation, knowing this day would come. The refugee fleet had grown to over 1,000 ships, each contributing their species' unique technologies to Earth's defense. But the Harvesters had been busy too. Status of the Shadow Protocol? Elena asked, watching as the enemy fleet spread out in an attack formation that seemed to defy conventional physics. All ships report ready, David replied. The Meridian crystal cloaking matrices are synchronized with Zentari biocamouflage. The fleet is invisible to standard detection methods. Elena nodded, her fingers brushing the neural interface at her temple, another gift from their allies, allowing direct communication with the ship's hybrid systems. Through it, she could feel the Prometheus's readiness, a combination of mechanical precision and organic anticipation. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Execute Shadow Protocol Alpha. Across the void of space, 200 Earth ships seemingly vanished. The technology was revolutionary. Meridian crystals bent light and energy around their hulls, while Zentari biological systems adapted in real time to match background radiation. Human quantum computers coordinated it all, making the impossible possible. The Harvester fleet paused, their sensors sweeping space for targets that no longer appeared to exist. Elena watched through the Prometheus's enhanced viewing systems as confusion rippled through their formation, a subtle disruption in their usually perfect coordination. They'd never faced an enemy they couldn't detect, David observed. Their entire strategy relies on analyzing and countering enemy technology. Hard to analyze what you can't see, Elena replied. All ships, prepare for synchronized strike. Target their command and control nodes. The Shadow Fleet moved through space like ghosts, taking up attack positions around the Harvester Armada. Each ship carried a new weapon, one born from desperate collaboration between species that had never imagined working together. Quantum-guided missiles housed cores of living Zentari tissue surrounded by Meridian crystal matrices, capable of adapting to any defense they encountered. Enemy fleet is initiating defensive protocols, the tactical officer reported. They're generating some kind of energy field, trying to force us to reveal ourselves. Elena felt the pressure through her neural link as the Harvester's energy field washed over them. The ship's hybrid systems strained to maintain their cloak, organic components pulsing with effort, while crystal matrices redirected excess energy. Now, Elena commanded, all ships, unleash hell. 200 ships decloaked simultaneously, their weapons already firing. The hybrid missiles streaked across space, their biological components evolving even as they flew, while their crystal matrices calculated and recalculated trajectories. The Harvester's defenses, designed to counter known weapons, found themselves facing munitions that changed their very nature between launch and impact. The first wave of missiles struck home. Massive explosions bloomed in space as Harvester ships began to break apart, their absorbed technologies turning against them as the hybrid weapons triggered cascade failures throughout their systems. But the Harvesters were far from defeated. Their remaining ships quickly adapted, their hulls morphing to generate new defensive patterns. Return fire lashed out, catching several Earth vessels with devastating accuracy. Porter and Kuznetsov are hit, David reported, his voice tight. Multiple hull breaches. The Zentari tissue is trying to regenerate, but another blast rocked the Prometheus, sending crew members staggering. Elena gripped her command chair, feeling the ship's pain through her neural link as crystal matrices cracked and biological systems screamed. Status of the Meridian weapon, she demanded. Crystal core is charged to maximum capacity, David replied. But using it will drain our defensive systems completely. We'll be vulnerable. Elena watched as more Harvester ships moved to surround them, their weapons charging for another barrage. The Meridian weapon was untested, a last resort device that channeled the combined energy of all three integrated technologies into a single reality warping burst. It might save them. It might tear the Prometheus apart. All ships, fall back to secondary positions, she ordered. Prometheus will cover your retreat. She felt David's questioning gaze, but kept her eyes on the tactical display. Divert all power to the crystal core. Prepare to fire the Meridian weapon. The ship hummed around her as energy flooded into its crystalline heart. Through her neural link, Alina felt the weapon's power building, like holding lightning in a bottle. Warning alerts flashed across every screen as the ship's hybrid systems were pushed far beyond their designed limits. Enemy fleet in optimal firing position, tactical reported. Core stability at critical levels. Alina took a deep breath, feeling the ship's determination matching her own. Fire. The Meridian weapon's discharge was like nothing humanity had ever witnessed. A wave of pure energy, tinted with impossible colors, erupted from the Prometheus's bow. Where it touched harvester ships, reality itself seemed to warp. Their advanced hulls, proof against conventional weapons, offered no protection against an attack that operated on fundamental physical laws they'd never encountered. When the energy wave dissipated, a third of the harvester fleet had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only crystalline fragments that glittered in space like newborn stars. The remaining enemy ships, perhaps experiencing true fear for the first time in their existence, began to retreat. Multiple vessels entering FTL, David reported, his voice filled with awe. They're running. Alina sagged in her chair, feeling the Prometheus's systems struggling to stabilize. They'd won, but the cost had been steep. Too many ships lost, too many brave crews sacrificed. And yet, send word to Earth, she ordered. Tell them. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Tell them we've shown the harvesters something new. Defeat and fear. They'll be back, but they'll remember this day. They'll remember that humanity and its allies can do what no other species has done. Make the hunters become the hunted. As the Shadow Fleet regrouped, Alina watched the retreating harvester ships vanish into FTL. They'd bought time, precious time for Earth to prepare for the next battle. Because there would be a next battle. The harvesters wouldn't stop until they were defeated completely, or until they'd taken everything worth taking. But humanity had proven something today, not just to the harvesters, but to all their allies. Different species, different technologies, different ways of thinking. All could be brought together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. That was humanity's true strength, not the weapons they built, but their ability to unite others in a common cause. The war was far from over, but its nature had changed. The hunters had become prey, if only for a moment. And that moment would echo across the galaxy, carrying a message to all those who still lived in fear of the harvesters. Resistance was not only possible, it was inevitable. Dr. Maya Lin stood in Earth's newly constructed Nexus Center, surrounded by representatives of 37 different species. The massive chamber, built to accommodate beings of all sizes and environmental needs, hummed with a mixture of verbal and nonverbal communication. Above them, a holographic display showed the latest harvester movements across the galaxy. They're changing their tactics, Maya explained, manipulating the display to highlight recent battle data. No more direct assaults. They're probing our defenses, testing for weaknesses, learning. A Meridian Elder, their crystalline form pulsing with concerned light patterns, moved forward. As they always have. The harvester's greatest strength is their ability to adapt, to absorb and improve upon any technology they encounter. That was their greatest strength, Maya corrected, bringing up new schematics, until we showed them something they couldn't simply absorb and improve. True integration. The display shifted to show Earth's latest defense platforms. Unlike the earlier versions, these new stations were almost organic in appearance, their forms constantly shifting as multiple technologies worked in perfect harmony. Meridian crystal matrices flowed into Zentari biological structures, while quantum computational systems threaded throughout like a nervous system. The harvesters understand adaptation, Maya continued, but they approach it like machines, analyzing, copying, improving. They see technology as something to be taken and absorbed. We see it as something to be shared and combined. The chamber's atmosphere shifted as the implications became clear. A Zentari hive mind node pulsed with bioluminescent agreement. They cannot copy what they cannot understand. and they cannot understand cooperation. Maya nodded, expanding the display to show the entire solar system. Earth had been transformed over the past year. The refugee fleet had become a permanent part of the system's defense, their ships integrated into a complex dance of overlapping patrol patterns. Research stations dotted the asteroid belt, each one dedicated to combining different species technologies in new and unexpected ways. Our latest breakthrough, Maya began, but alarms cut through the chamber. The holographic display shifted automatically, showing a massive tear in space at the system's edge. Multiple harvester signatures detected, the AI announced, its voice a blend of human efficiency and meridian harmony. Configuration unknown. Analysis suggests biological components. Maya's blood ran cold. The harvesters had never used biological technology before. They'd considered it inferior, unreliable. If they were adapting it now, all stations to battle readiness, she ordered, watching as the new harvester ships emerged from the spatial tear. Their hulls seemed to writhe, mechanical precision warring with organic unpredictability. They're trying to beat us at our own game. But something was wrong. The harvester ships' movements were erratic, their formations breaking apart even as they approached. Through the enhanced sensors, Maya could see their hulls actually fighting against themselves, organic components rejecting mechanical control. They don't understand. The Zinteri node hummed. Life cannot be simply commanded. It must be communicated with, respected, integrated. Maya watched as the harvester fleet struggled against itself. Their attempt to mimic Earth's hybrid technology was backfiring spectacularly. Without true understanding of biological systems, without the patience to develop genuine integration, they'd created monstrosities that were tearing themselves apart. All defense platforms, hold position, she ordered. Let's see how their experiment plays out. The chamber watched in fascinated horror as the harvester fleet disintegrated. Ships split apart as their forced biological components rebelled against mechanical control. Others simply shut down, their systems overwhelmed by the complexity of true integration. Send probe drones to collect debris samples, Maya instructed. And get me a channel to Admiral Rossi's Shadow Fleet. They need to see this. Hours later, Maya stood in her private lab, studying the preliminary analysis of the harvester debris. The data confirmed what they'd witnessed. The harvesters had tried to shortcut their way to biological integration, with catastrophic results. They still don't understand, she murmured, touching the display showing a failed attempt to merge mechanical control systems with living tissue. You can't force evolution. That was humanity's true advantage. While the harvesters sought to consume and control, humans had learned to adapt and integrate. Each new refugee species brought not just their technology, but their perspective, their way of thinking. Earth had become more than just a sanctuary. It was a crucible where different approaches to science and technology could merge and evolve. A message flashed across her screen. Another group of refugee ships had been detected approaching the system. More species fleeing the harvesters, bringing more technologies, more possibilities for integration. Maya smiled, already imagining the new combinations they might discover. The harvesters thought they were the pinnacle of evolution, but they'd stagnated, trapped in their belief that technology was something to be taken rather than shared. They'd forgotten, or perhaps never understood, that true evolution came from cooperation, from the endless dance of adaptation and integration that was life itself. The war was far from over, but its outcome was becoming clear. The harvesters could copy technology, but they couldn't copy the one thing that made Earth's defense truly unbeatable: the ability to bring different species together, to create something greater than the sum of its parts. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or shields, but the understanding that diversity, of life, of technology, of thought, was the greatest strength of all. Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen watched Earth's combined defense forces take their positions. The tactical display showed over 3,000 ships arranged in intricate formations. Refugees turned defenders, their vessels now seamlessly integrated with human technology. They were the last line between Earth and the largest harvester fleet ever recorded. They've committed everything. Commander Rodriguez noted from his station aboard the flagship Athena, named after the research station where this all began 2 years ago. Long-range sensors show no reserve forces. This is their endgame. Sarah nodded, feeling the ship's hybrid systems through her neural interface. The Athena represented everything they'd achieved. A perfect fusion of mechanical precision, crystalline power, and biological adaptability. Like Earth itself, it was proof that different technologies could do more than coexist. They could evolve together. Status of the Nexus network, she asked, watching as the massive harvester fleet approached in a formation that blocked out the stars. All nodes synchronized, Rodriguez replied. Every ship in the fleet is connected. The Meridians say the crystal matrices are stable, and the Zentari report their biological components are ready. The Nexus network was their final innovation, a way to link every ship in the defense fleet into a single coordinated entity. Human quantum computers provided the framework, Meridian crystals channeled the energy, and Zentari biological systems allowed for instant adaptation. Enemy fleet entering final approach, Tactical announced. They're different. Their hull configurations don't match any previous encounters. Sarah studied the incoming vessels. The harvesters had learned from their previous defeat, abandoned their failed attempts at biological integration. Instead, they'd done what they did best, evolved their mechanical nature to unprecedented levels. They've stripped away everything that made them even remotely organic, she observed, committed fully to their mechanical nature. They think that's their advantage. All ships reporting ready, Rodriguez said, awaiting your command, Admiral. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the combined anticipation of the entire fleet through the Nexus network. This was what everything had been building toward, not just the battles and innovations, but the trust built between species that had never imagined working together. Initialize the Harmony Protocol, she ordered. Through the Nexus network, 3,000 ships began to move as one. Meridian crystal energy flowed between vessels, while Zentari biological systems pulsed in perfect rhythm. Human consciousness provided the direction, the purpose that united it all. The harvesters struck first, their weapons more powerful than anything they'd previously revealed. Space itself seemed to warp under their assault. But the defense fleet moved like a living organism, ships flowing around the attacks while maintaining their defensive screen around Earth. Return fire, Sarah commanded. All ships, execute pattern Nova. The combined fleet responded instantly. Ships arranged themselves in fractal patterns that the harvesters' targeting systems couldn't predict. Weapons fire coordinated through the Nexus network struck with perfect precision, each shot amplified by the crystalline network connecting the fleet. But the harvesters were relentless. Their ships pressed forward, accepting devastating losses to close the distance. Where their weapons were blocked, they attempted to ram through the defensive lines, sacrificing themselves to create gaps in the formation. They're adapting to the Nexus network, Rodriguez reported tensely, finding patterns in our movements. Sarah had expected this. The harvesters' greatest strength had always been their ability to analyze and counter any technology they encountered. But she had one final card to play. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Disengage from the Nexus network. All ships switched to autonomous control. Rodriguez stared at her in shock. Admiral, without the network's coordination. The harvesters understand patterns, Sarah interrupted. They can predict and counter any system, no matter how complex. So let's show them something they can't predict. Chaos. The order went out. 3,000 ships suddenly broke from their perfect formation, each crew fighting in their own way, using their unique combinations of technology. Meridian vessels unleashed crystalline weapons that defied physics, while Zentari ships released clouds of organic particles that ate through harvester hulls. Human vessels darted between them, their hybrid weapons striking at whatever opportunities presented themselves. The harvester fleet faltered. Their perfect mechanical precision, their ability to analyze and counter patterns, became a weakness when faced with pure unpredictability. Every ship in the defense fleet fought differently, combining technologies in ways that couldn't be predicted or countered. Their breaking formation, tactical, reported with growing excitement, multiple ships showing signs of systemic failure. Sarah watched as the mighty Harvester fleet began to crumble. Ships designed to counter any single form of attack found themselves overwhelmed by dozens of different approaches simultaneously. Their mechanical perfection had become their weakness. They couldn't adapt fast enough to counter attacks that followed no pattern at all. "Push the advantage," she ordered. "All ships, engage at will." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The combined fleet struck from every angle, each ship fighting in its own unique way while supporting its allies. Meridian crystal beams created gaps in Harvester defenses that Zentari biological weapons exploited. Human hybrid technology provided the flexibility to take advantage of every opportunity. When it was over, the remains of the Harvester fleet hung in space like a new asteroid field. Of the thousands of ships that had arrived to crush Earth's resistance, barely 100 fled back into deep space. "Shall we pursue?" Rodriguez asked. Sarah shook her head, watching the survivors retreat. "Let them go. Let them carry the message to any others of their kind, that there are some things that can't be harvested or controlled. That life, in all its chaotic, unpredictable glory, will always find a way to adapt and overcome." As the adrenaline of battle faded, Sarah looked at the tactical display showing Earth, surrounded now not by enemies but by allies, species that had once flowed in terror before the Harvesters had found not just sanctuary here, but a new way of existing, one that celebrated differences instead of trying to control them. "Send word to Earth," she ordered. Tell them the hunters won't be troubling us anymore. We've shown them something they can never adapt to or overcome, the simple truth that we are stronger together than alone." The war was over. Earth had evolved from a sanctuary into something more, a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together, when technology was shared rather than stolen, when life in all its infinite variety was allowed to flourish and grow. The Harvesters had sought to harvest the galaxy's knowledge, but in doing so, they'd forgotten the greatest knowledge of all. That true strength comes not from what you can take, but from what you can create together.